Good afternoon. Lord, help me make this video. Welcome to episode 2 of Why God Kills People. And we just did Genesis and Exodus, but joke's on me because the next thing on my list is in Numbers, which may as well be Exodus because we're still talking about Moses. So once I get done with Numbers, we'll be done with Moses. And then we might get to, I didn't put anything down for Judges. So we might do Numbers, and then part of Samuel. I don't know. This might not be, we had big chunks to do in Genesis, big things to do in Genesis. And so we might be able to breeze through a lot more this episode. So, let's start with Numbers. I don't really remember what the deal was, but let me just give you talk a little bit about Numbers. So it's basically sort of a more detailed description of them being in the wilderness. So Exodus covers the origins of Moses, the origins of the Israelites as slaves, all the way up until they. What is the last thing in Exodus? I think it's right before. I don't know if the death of Moses is in it. I don't know. It might just be like the covering the 40 years that they wandered. So Numbers just focuses on them being in the wilderness. So there's a lot of extra stories, some repeated things. So one of these is number 16. And I mean, this is a hot mess story, like, like in a good way, but it is dramatic. This 40 years in the wilderness, I guess a lot of this happened before they even were doomed to the 40 years. So they had the growing pains of from going from slave to free people in the wilderness, trusting a God to provide everything for them, was just the most insane transition of humans ever. Like I don't even know, they did not want to be free. And every once in a while, you will read this and be like, this is an insane group of people. And then you have to stop and go, like, wait, that sounds like you last week. Or didn't you do this? Aren't you like this? So every once in a while, you want to be like, yeah, I'm nothing like these people. And then you'll see something, you'll be like, oh my gosh. So it's kind of a fun exercise. I mean, if you're reading Exodus at all, you're probably somebody who loves God and loves the word and is trying to get into it and therefore cannot identify with these people at all. I would be interested to see, if somebody could really identify with the Israelites and just be like, yeah, no, I totally get it because they're just special, special people. And it's not like I don't understand. Every once in a while, I put myself in that wilderness position and I think, okay, I'm in the desert. It's hot. Now I don't have to work anymore. So that's something, but it's just like the newness and, you just don't know about the future. But I feel like if I had a pillar of fire at night and a cloud in the day, and then after the manna happened, I would probably be cool after that. I wouldn't just keep being like, what are we going to do? Because we see that they are really trying God's patience with the what are we going to do? Like 10 plagues, firstborn children gone, a Passover moment, you plunder the Egyptians, you go out to the desert, They pursue you. The Red Sea parts. You walk across. Like, how are you still saying, what are we going to do? You brought us out here to die. Like, I just, I but then every once in a while you go, oh, yeah, I just did that. So that's kind of the context, okay? So this is the story, let's see, Numbers 16. Okay, so this is the rebellion against Moses. Before that, I want to do the quail thing. Now, I don't know if anybody knows the quail story, but basically, like one of the 10 times they were like, you brought us out here to die, and they needed food. And God literally like invented a food and sent it to them. And the food was called manna. And it was like some type of like um, fiber carb thing. Okay. That it didn't really grow. It like gathered. It was like it gathered in the morning. Like, I don't know, there would be like a dew that happened. Like, it's kind of cool, actually. Kind of a lot cool. And so they were doing that. And then, so that wasn't cool enough. Then after that, they were like, we're tired of manna. Right? So I feel like so much of this is the attitude. Like, if they had just asked Moses, like, can we get some this or that? Like, how can we, like, they might have been able to get a garden out there if they had asked right, but they didn't even, like, they didn't come up with any ideas. Like, they didn't get creative at all. They just complained. And then God did something that he decided he wanted to do. So, and what made it even worse about the complaining is that aside from them not having any solutions and just complaining and being like, this sucks, it really just reminds you of just like every Christian, every new Christian that just has got one foot out of the door. They don't, it's like they liked the first miracle, they liked the second miracle, they liked when God took away their depression in an instant and all of this other stuff. But the constant having to walk the path, it's just not their thing or something. I don't know. So it just was not their thing. They just kept saying, back in Egypt, we had it this way, we had it that way. Like, and I think we all know people like this. We all know people who hate their healthy relationship and are constantly trying to go back to the toxic one. We don't know what it's about. Who knows what it's about? But so anyway, so this is one of those instances. So it says, this is Numbers 11, verse 1. Now the people complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord, and when he heard them, his anger was aroused. Now I really do like that saying. They complained about their hardships in the hearing of the Lord. Like, what is the hearing of the Lord? Like, what constitutes that? Doesn't everything constitute? Doesn't like your thoughts constitute that? Well, yes, but I think that they were specifically, the point is they were being like loud about it. It wasn't just in their mind. They didn't have a fear of like just whispering or like just giving each other looks like that because of where they were at. They were just like, oh, God, what are we doing now? Like, what? Like, just loudly, obnoxiously being just discontent. And then it says, then fire from the Lord burned among them and consumed some of the outskirts of the camp. When the people cried out to Moses, he prayed to the Lord, and the fire died down. So that place was called Taberah, because fire from the Lord had burned among them. So I don't know if that means that some people died or the outskirts of the camp just got a little singed because God was like, and like, honestly, I think, we see like when you get to a holy place, you have to act accordingly. Like, He told Moses when he came across the burning bush to take off his sandals that was holy ground. When you're in the tabernacle, um, you have to have all your I's crossed or your T's crossed and your I's dotted, because you could lose your life playing around going in the Holy of Holies. They put a bell on the priest to make sure, like, if he didn't come out, he had to jingle the bell or whatever, because if he hadn't been ceremonially didn't do what he was supposed to do, and he was being reckless, he could lose his life. So I feel like at this point we haven't gotten to a tabernacle or anything like that yet, but well, they do eventually build one. But I think that the camp was sort of considered a holy place. Maybe they didn't really have an understanding of that. But he was literally with them 24/7. And then there was a tent that Moses went in, and literally the presence of God went in there, and he was the only one that could go in there. I think Aaron did too, but only so many people could go in there. So they were just being like super reckless. And then I like this the way that it describes them. It says the rabble with them began to crave other food. So the rabble, like a rabble rousers. The rabble with them began to crave other food. And again, the Israelites started wailing and said, if only we had meat to eat, not meat to eat. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. It was free. Yes, we worked day and night, and we had to make bricks out of whatever. And then they stopped giving us straw, and we still had to make bricks anyways. But we had fish, though. We didn't have to pay for it. Also, the cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions, and garlic. Now, the foodie in me sympathizes. But it's like they haven't even bothered to sort of try to understand the character of God. I don't know. It's like, where is the ball being dropped? Because this is very much like any other relationship. Like, I would deduce that whatever God did all of that for me, even if it was just on behalf of my ancestors or, my one faithful ancestor or whatever, I feel like I would be able to talk to him about that. Like, I don't know. It's like they feel more trapped than when they were in slavery. Although it does say that they cried out to God for a really long time. So, but yeah, so that's where they're at. So, and then it says, but now we have lost our appetite. We never see anything but this manna. And then it goes on to describe the manna. And then it says, Moses heard the people of every family wailing at the entrance to their tents. The Lord became exceedingly angry, and Moses was troubled. He asked the Lord, why have you brought this trouble on your servant? What have I done to displease you, that you put the burden of all these people on me? And, Moses is also complaining a little bit, but I think he has earned it because he don't know what to do either. But it's just like, I don't know, it's just everyone has anxiety. Now Moses is getting anxiety. He's like, did I conceive all these people? Did I give them birth? Why do you tell me to carry them in my arms as a nurse carries an infant to the land you promised on oath to their ancestors? Where can I get meat for all these people? They keep wailing to me, give us meat to eat. I cannot carry all these people by myself. The burden is too heavy for me. If this is how you're going to treat me, please go ahead and kill me if I have found favor in your eyes, and do not let me face my own ruin. Now, Moses is driven to the brink of suicidal thoughts multiple times. And again, I don't blame him. All this is new to every single last one of them. And the fact that they're going to Moses saying, you do it, you do it. Like they keep going to Moses. And eventually he does get some help. His father-in-law is like, dude, you need to like break this up, because literally everyone was going directly to Moses. Like all hundreds of thousands of the 250,000, however many was out there. So he was like, get like some people under you and get people under them and get people under them. And like, have people over hundreds and thousands. Like, so shout out to the father-in-law, but Moses almost, honestly, it was a lot. Then the Lord said to Moses, bring me 70 of Israel's elders who are known to you as leaders. Have them come to the tent of meeting, that they may stand there with you. I will come down and speak with you there, and I will take some of the power of the Spirit that is on you and put it on them. They will share the burden of the people, so that you will not have to carry it alone. Tell the people, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow, when you will eat meat. The Lord heard you when you wailed, if only we had meat to eat. We were better off in Egypt. Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. I love it. Like, I don't know why people don't like God. He's so saucy and clearly like real. Like, it's just, he's not even done. I just had to laugh. Now the Lord will give you meat, and you will eat it. You will not eat it for just 1 day, or 2 days, or 5, 10, or 20 days, but for a whole month, until it comes out of your nostrils and you loathe it, because you have rejected the Lord who is among you, and have wailed before him, saying, why did we ever leave Egypt? So I'm sorry, but that's S tier God stuff right there. He's so done with them. He's so done with them. Oh my gosh. You will not eat it for just 1 day, or 2 days, or 5 days, or 10, or 20 days. Oh my God. That's hilarious. Why would you do that? And then Moses is like, there's 600,000 men on foot, and you say, I'll give them meat to eat for a whole month? He can't even believe that, because they're in a whole desert. He said, would they have enough if flocks and herds were slaughtered for them? Would they have enough if all the fish in the sea were caught for them? So, but God is a lot more patient with Moses. Because even as you're reading it, you're like, you're dealing with the God of the universe. I'm sure he'll figure it out. But it says, the Lord answered Moses, is the Lord's arm too short? Now you will see whether or not what I say will come true for you. So Moses went out and told the people what the Lord had said. There's kind of an interesting part in here about the Spirit comes upon the 70 elders, and then they prophesy, and that's kind of cool. But then let's get down to the part where some people die. So now a wind went out from the Lord. That's kind of deep. And drove quail in from the sea. It scattered them up to 2 cubits deep all around the camp, as far as a day's walk in any direction. All that day and night, and all the next day, the people went out and gathered quail. No one gathered less than 10 homers, which I don't know. Sounds like a lot. This says, footnote says, that is possibly about 1 3/4 tons, or about 1.6 metric tons. So I don't know. That's a lot. And I don't know if that means altogether that's what that would have been, or no one gathered less than 1 3/4 ton. I don't know. Then it says, then they spread them out all around the camp. And then it says, but while the meat was still between their teeth, and before it could be consumed, the anger of the Lord burned against the people, and he struck them with a severe plague. Therefore the place was named Kibroth Hattaavah, because they buried the people who had craved other food. So, yeah. And like I said in the first episode, this is not like, well, you got to understand, this is not like uh, trying to save face for God or whatever, but that was the situation. My mind immediately goes to like what is setting God off about it. It's because like how we just explained, like they're not really engaging him. They're not like praying to him for it. They're acting like he's not even part of the thing. And that it's like they just woke up and they're in this wilderness. They're like, we want to go home. Like we had this there and that there. And so then they go to Moses again, not praying to God, not like they didn't even say like speak to God for us and get like it's all just earthly. Like that's really strange. And then even when they got all of this food, it's not like, oh, and they praised God and they marveled like that this happened. They were just like, finally, and they just like started eating. And God's like, oh, you know what? Die. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. Like I don't know. That's what it looked like to me. That was my own personal whatever. I get it. Like the one thing you look at is like, okay, what set God off, and like, do I have any? Is it possible that I could ever like behave this way? Like, am I in the clear? Do I ever have to worry about this? And the answer to that one is no. So I literally don't care. Like, I'm just learning from history right now. People who open the book and they're super freaked out by like God's seemingly random acts of vengeance, and they're like, well, who's safe? It's like, well, if you're not complete, if your thoughts are not about evil from morning to night, you're probably okay. If you're not being just completely ridiculous and like just you hate the fact that you've been rescued and you hate the fact that you're free and you're just complaining and you're just acting reckless. Like, I mean, these are people who saw the glory of God. They had already been told, like, don't approach the mountain because, if you approach the mountain, you'll die. The presence of God is going to come down. Moses comes back, his face is glowing, and they're like, yo, just cover that up. We can't even stand it. Like, you talk to God for us. Like, we can't approach. We're too scared. They've had all these experiences and they're talking like that. Like, these people are not even, they're not getting the memo or whatever. Like, I don't even know. So it's a very common it's a common theme that I don't know that many people pick up on this theme of God saving a multitude, and then of that multitude, some of them ain't just because they were descended from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob doesn't mean they're all righteous, and just because they're descended from some other group doesn't mean they're all not righteous. So we see very often God acting on behalf of Gentiles. And I mean, there's a lot of Gentile miracles that make the Bible. A lot. So nobody is safe just because you belong to the right group, and nobody is in danger just because you belong to the wrong group. The commonality is having the fear of the Lord, reverence for God, reading the room, understanding, like having wisdom, not being foolish, loving God. All of these things are going to get you in no matter who you are. And foolishness, nonsense, tomfoolery, shenanigans, recklessness, blasphemy, those things are going to put you in danger no matter what group you're in. So don't be fooled by the categories. It's always the same thing. So I never read these things like, oh, look what he does, look what he's like, because I feel like people are trying to, aside from them not even wanting to believe that it's true, they're trying to assess the type of person. Is this a dangerous person? Is this somebody that, and they're using the same rule book that they use in life, which I don't know why people think their life rule book is like super reliable. Like, we are picking psychopaths and putting them on our team all the time, and we are neglecting good, decent people all the time. So I don't know why we are trying to go by that, but so it's like almost like we're judging God by human standards and not by godly standards, which I don't know, makes sense, I guess, that we would do that. But yeah, so that's that. That's that one. So I think today we're going to be focusing on. It seemed like yesterday's list were people that. Was there any individuals? Oh no, yeah, we did Judah's sons. So we did just the evilness of populations. Sodom and Gomorrah, God versus the entire world, and just the eradication of populations. And, I looked at the word genocide just for fun, just to see like what that word means, and it means, what we think it means is basically what it means. What I did not know is that it's only that word was invented like, I don't know, World War II times, which makes sense. I guess you kind of need a new word for. You don't really though, because atrocities have been happening since the beginning of time, but like that term was coined after World War II. But it's basically, the killing of a particular group, and it was on the basis usually of something, whether it's race, political ideology, whatever, blah blah blah. So is God genocidal? I don't know. I looked it up because I imagined that the definition had to do with like humans killing other humans, but it didn't specify humans. So I guess that puts him in the category. But that's why we're going through all of these. So far, there's only been two. The rest of them have been individuals and judgments based on very specific things that the people were told, or premature. In the cases of like Moses and Aaron, uh, lives that were not prolonged, I guess, rather than just out and out them just being struck down. So, so far we're up to two genocides, if you like, because I'm not here to sugarcoat it. Like if you're out because of two genocides that, um, I could say could be explained, but like could be explained if you want to understand the context of it, but not like explained away like, oh, that makes sense. Like God can do it at once. It's the fundamental discomfort of being a creation is being subject to the creator. So it's just the reality. If God wanted to go in and count 1, 2, 3, 4 and kill everybody, he could do that. Would he do that? That's why we're reading all this, to see why he does what he does. So should we be worried? Should we be worried? So let me go to the next story in Numbers, which is the first one I was going to read, Numbers 16. Now, this is, if you've been following along, so they got the quail that they wanted, they got the manna. A couple times they went in, they were like, we're going to die. We don't have any water. We're going to die. And he got water from an unlikely source. struck the rock for water. Um, there was poison one time. There was poison. Um, they figured that out. Plague happened. They went to God. They spoke to God. They figured that out. A couple times they had some battles. They figured that out, right? So that is the context. Oh, wait, did I pass it? Yeah, I went past it. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So, chapter 16, there are these, I don't know, what do you call them? Rebels? Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, who rose up against Moses. With them were 250 Israelite men, well known community leaders who had been appointed members of the council. They came as a group to oppose Moses and Aaron and said to them, You have gone too far. The whole community is holy, every one of them, and the Lord is with them. Why then do you set yourselves above the Lord's assembly? So, just the origin of politics. Like, look how long it's been around. Like, gag, gag, gag. And then it says, when Moses heard this, he fell face down. Then he said to Korah and his followers, in the morning the Lord will show who belongs to him and who is holy, and he will have that person come near him. The man he chooses, he will cause to come near him. And then he gives them instructions. And then that's backstory that we don't really need right now. Okay. And then it says, oh, this is very interesting, just to get the gist. Okay, so Moses summoned Dathan, Abiram, and the sons of Eliab, but they said, we will not come. Isn't it enough that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness? And now you also want to lord it over us. Moreover, you haven't brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey or given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Do you want to treat these men like slaves? No, we will not come. So what I get from that is they somehow think this whole thing is a flim flam. I mean, like that's such a such a dedication to just looking at just what your eyes see. Like, just the short-term memory of that is like insane. Like, and I understand Egypt and all of Egypt represents. And basically, from reading Jubilees and just doing other research and just really wrapping my head around this region that is a desert. And Egypt, the way that Egypt is situated and the way that it has those, 5 rivers at the top, or whatever many there are, and they figured out irrigation techniques, and they figured out how to get the water to come to them, and they figured out how to get green grass and all of these things in a desert. And they're not dependent on the rainfall or the well and going to get water. How do we get water? We need more water. Where do we get water? Like everyone else in the desert is. And so they sort of represent, like, I don't know, the world system, because they just don't, it's just not a worry they have anymore. They have wells, they have cisterns, they have irrigation, they got everything they need. If it doesn't rain for a while, if it gets, if they have an off year, they're going to be fine. And it becomes this metropolis where people can thrive because water is readily available in a desert, being the key part of that. So I think it gives when you have water like that in a desert, it gives you a false sense of what you're capable of and what can be done. Because if any of them things break down, it'll only take a few days for you to understand, like, you're in a desert. This is a desert and you need water. So, but after you rely on that so long, you just kind of feel invincible. So that's kind of where they lived. Even though they were slaves there, they preferred to be slaves there. Clearly, they preferred to be slaves there rather than be free in an unknown thing that they couldn't predict, and they couldn't. They had to rely on God out there. And to be fair, they're like the first group to have to ever do this. I mean, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob relied on God every once in a while, in that moment, and then they had solutions. This is the first sort of people group. Like, God is like birthing a single people group at once and having them go through this. And right away, we're seeing that a lot of the a lot of this is not going to take for a lot of people. They're not going to make it. In fact, let's see, 40 years in the wilderness, who made it out? Like, literally, like 4 people or something. Caleb, Joshua. Moses didn't even make it out. Aaron didn't make it out. So that whole generation died, and the children are the ones that made it out. So at any rate, that's just stuff I'm looking at while I'm reading this. But so yeah, they got it in their heads that Moses took them away from a perfectly good land, brought them out in the wilderness to die. Like, he just had the power to do that. And the evidence is, where's our land at? Where's our vineyards? It's been like 6 months. I don't even know. Like, I don't know how long. It hasn't been that long, but yeah. So then it says they fight back and forth. Moses says, I haven't taken so much as a donkey from them. I have not wronged any of them. And then, so you want to just guess what God had to say about it? So this is 16, verse 19. When Korah had gathered all his followers in opposition to them at the entrance to the tent of meeting, the glory of the Lord appeared to the entire assembly. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, separate yourselves from this assembly so I can put an end to them at once. He's like, get out of the way. Get all the way out of the way. Oh my gosh, I love it. How do you not love this? You have some like guilty, like, you identify with these rebel people to not, like, you feel like you're God's enemy, and that's why you feel like that, because this is gold. But guess what Moses does? And this is why Moses is who he is. Because Moses and Aaron, to be fair, Moses and Aaron fell face down and cried out, "O God, the God who gives breath to all living things, will you be angry with the entire assembly when only one man sins?" So then the Lord says to Moses, say to the assembly, move away from the tent of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So then he like narrows it down to just these 3. So Moses got up and went up to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. He warned the assembly, move back from the tents of these wicked men. Do not touch anything belonging to them, or you will be swept away because of their sins. So they moved away from the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Dathan and Abiram had come out and were standing with their wives, children, and little ones at the entrance to their tents. Then Moses said, this is how you will know that the Lord has sent me to do all these things, and that it was not my idea. If these men die a natural death and suffer the fate of all mankind, then the Lord has not sent me. But if the Lord brings about something totally new, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them with everything that belongs to them, they can go down alive into the realm of the dead. Then you will know that these men have treated the Lord with contempt. As soon as he finished saying all of this, the ground under them split apart, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them and their households and all those associated with Korah, together with their possessions. They went down alive into the realm of the dead with everything they owned. The earth closed over them, and they perished and were gone from the community. Then, at their cries, all the Israelites around them fled, shouting, "The earth is going to swallow us too." Now, why would they say that? Like, that's kind of what I was already saying. Like, why would they be scared of that? Were they also grumbling? Because so much of this has to do with like a person's heart. And again, this is just me trying to explain it. This is not like me trying to just being objective as possible about it. Because if I saw that, I would be like, whoa, that's super cool. Like, I like having nothing to do with that situation. And also hearing what Moses literally just said before that, which is, if God has sent me, then this is how you'll know. If this was just something that was my idea, then this won't happen. But if the Lord has sent me, that He's going to do, and He literally just came up with this thing on the spot, and God did it, which we can go back and forth about, like, is that still a possibility? Is that still a thing? Does God do that anymore? I don't see why He wouldn't do that, but you have to have Moses's, this is all again all dependent on the heart. Like, just like I was thinking today about how Jesus said, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you can tell this mountain to move, be cast into the sea, and it'll be done. And you go, yeah, right. It's like, okay, well, that's the first step to not being able to do that. It's like, there's a reason why you've never seen it before. And it's not because He's a liar. It's because being able to believe that you can move a mountain, if you have the faith, not only the smallness is, He's just saying like what a small amount of faith will do, but it's not just belief, it's no doubt at all, 0% doubt. If you have pure faith that size, you can move a mountain with it. He didn't say, and this is not relegated to being a disciple or even being a follower of Christ. He just said this is a reality of, if you have faith that you could do something and you don't doubt at all whatsoever, 0%, you can move a mountain into the sea. Now, you have to then go be in a position to believe that. It's very hard. It's not His fault that it's hard. It's not some weird puzzle that you're never supposed to be able to get. It's like, oh, well, you'll never be able to have that type of faith, so it'll never happen. So it's made up. Like, that's something you're doing, again, making it impossible. But like, Moses has seen enough. He knows God well enough, and he had no problem doing that. And he knew his position. So he just made up a thing, like, and he knows that God was about to, like, literally destroy the whole camp. The Lord's about to get that thing cleaned out. And it was Moses that did Moses pull him back? And this is the thing that people don't like, because they don't like the idea of God having emotions and having to be talked into different decisions. They don't like that. That's not perfection to them. That's not, he should know what to do in all circumstances. It's like when we make this facsimile of something, like the way that we expect politicians to be, like how we want them to be and have the right answer for everything. It's like we want him to have the right answer for everything, and he does. Um, I, for one, think it is super cool that he sort of has this, we can, like other, like later on, he's gonna destroy everybody. He's like, tells Moses, like, I'm gonna just start over with you. And Moses talks him out of it. And that's how they get 40 years in the wilderness. And he says, fine, I'll let them live, but they're going to die out in the wilderness. So, which is, it still accomplishes what God was going to do, which is not let any of them people survive. And they didn't, but their children survived. And that was because of Moses' input. I personally wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have just been like, okay, like I don't know how to just. I'd be like, well, you're God. You make the decisions. So nothing would have got done if I was there. Thankfully, Moses was there, and I think God knew that about him. So, um, so yeah, basically that happened, and then Aaron offered incense and made atonement for them. He stopped. He stood between the living and the dead, and the plague stopped because let's see, is that the second time? Because it says, "Get away from the assembly, so I can put it into them at once." Oh my gosh! Okay, so there was even more drama after that. So then that happened, and God gave them some instructions to do atonement. And then it says, the next day, the whole Israelite community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. You have killed the Lord's people, they said. Bruh. Like, how can you go to Moses and Aaron and say, you opened up the earth and caused those men and all their belongings and everything to fall into it? But when the assembly gathered in opposition to Moses and Aaron and turned toward the tent of meeting, suddenly the cloud covered it and the glory of the Lord appeared. Then Moses and Aaron went to the front of the tent of meeting, and the Lord said to Moses, get away from this assembly so I can put an end to them at once. And they fell face down. So what I really like about that is that God is like, the people are proving his point. They're a hot mess. How could you still be believing like in weird, like Delulu? Like, what are you doing? You're going to get yourself killed. It's like you're opposing the man of God. You're causing strife and division in the camp, which is like, I don't know if you know, but that's like one of the things that God absolutely hates. So then Moses told Aaron, he says, hurry to the assembly and make atonement for them. Wrath has come out from the Lord. The plague has started. So Aaron did as Moses said. So Moses is trying to save these poor babies, which I think is also, God is taking that into account. It's like the heart, like Moses' heart. And that is assuaging the wrath of God. And it says, but 14,700 people died from the plague, in addition to those who had died because of Korah. Then Aaron returned to Moses at the entrance to the tent of meeting, for the plague had stopped. So, bruh. So I guess if there's a theme to this, to today's, this is, God and, dealing with his own people. And part of this is not like, oh, God kills his own people. It's like he gave them all freedom based on who they were related to, basically. But then they had to be whittled down after that. Should he have let them all decide, like, who wants to go and who doesn't want to go? Like, I don't know. That feels like that'd be super complicated. Did they ever have a chance of being the type of person that would want to follow God, or were they doomed from the beginning? I don't know. I don't know. Um, I think that that going into the wilderness gave them an opportunity if maybe they were on the fence, and who knows, there maybe, you don't know how people are flip-flopping. Some people may have, if they hadn't gone at all, if they have God said, like, who wants to go, who doesn't want to go, and a lot of people didn't go, then they would have gotten an opportunity, and they might have changed their mind out in the wilderness. There's a lot of people that might have, that changed. Who knows who changed? Who was raw for God in the beginning, and then who ended up not being so, and ended up going with the, getting swallowed in the earth with the rebellious people who were like, who does Moses think he is? Blah blah blah. And like this whole thing is holy, which is hilarious. Like, because they weren't treating it holy when they were complaining openly about not having meat. Like, you think God can't handle a meat order? So I don't know. Very interesting. Lots of stuff in there, but yeah. So that's that one. Let's see. Do I want to go into another? Should I just leave it at that? I don't know. I'm a little bit OCD about it. That did take me a while, but all right. Maybe I will just stop it here, and then we'll go on to, because the other ones are just completely different, a completely different subject, really. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, but I think this one was interesting because, I understand why people on the outside would be like, this is crazy. But at the same time, like, does it feel like not something, does it feel like something you haven't seen in real life? Like, does it feel unrealistic? Because I would say that is the drawback from other religions, is that they don't sound realistic. They don't sound like anything that you've ever seen in life. It sounds like it's something you have to go join. You have to go there and join. It doesn't sound like it's describing your actual life. And these stories sound like real life. They sound like what has happened. And um, this is like so part of the Jews' history is God doing things for them. And like, even when you get to when they finally like establish they have a king and they have a kingdom, and you see the history of that, you see how they slowly descend into um, just idol worship, and they become like all the nations around them. And God destroys the temple. He's like, the temple only is only great if my people are there and people are worshiping me. Like, he doesn't care about the temple being there if y'all ain't gonna do right. So he lets that temple get destroyed. Beautiful temple. Like, Solomon, built that thing, and it was, no one can conceive of what that temple was, nowadays. Um, so they kind of go through this up and down thing, and I think by and large, the same thing is happening with Christians and the churches, and just the Christians in general, where people are getting not necessarily tested in a wilderness, but it's like over time you see who's really about this and who isn't, who's trying to um, rebel against the clear servant of God and say, well, we all deserve a seat at the table, and all this kind of nonsense. All of these things that rise up, and oh, we were better off when we weren't having to do all this crap, and we were better off. And what are we going to do? We don't have this. What are we going to do? Just acting like God, like, literally isn't there, which has got to be pretty obnoxious. And just crying and carrying on and wailing like they're in so much danger, like they're orphans. Like that is really insulting. Like, I don't know if that really came across, but like, that's really insulting. You would be insulted as a human. I'm sure God is super insulted. I'm sure the angels are like, "What are we? Why are we doing this?" Like, because they're just up in heaven, like seeing the splendor. Like, are we not done with them yet? Like, why are we doing this with these people? So, it doesn't look like he had patience. It looked like he was just always angry and blah blah blah. But we see like these people are like something is wrong with them. Even after that whole display, which is what people are constantly asking for now, by the way, is some display to prove to them. Guess what? That wasn't enough for them. Even when Moses said, "May God swallow up these men, and just them and no one else, if he didn't send me." That happened. They were like, "You killed," like that's crazy. That's crazy. And yeah, his whole family, his family died and all of that. And what's up with that, God? What's up with that? Um, I don't know. Like, I don't know. We have our own sort of philosophies about human life, and human life is sacred, which we just, we don't base it on the Bible or anything like that anymore. So it's kind of like hasty pasty, whatever. But I do imagine that had something to do with, the sins, the man of the household and their sins causing, the entire house to suffer, which we kind of do see today, actually, where the whole house suffers when the man is, you know, doing something grievous and foolish. So that's what I took it to mean. Um, and that happens a lot, especially in the Old Testament, because I don't know, the pre-Jesus world, we really are quite spoiled. Like we don't see it. Like Jesus covering everything, and being able to sort of approach God without there being a veil. Like we really can't understand what it would be like, where it's like no man can see me and live. Like they couldn't even approach where he had been without like maybe dying. So yeah. So I don't think those stories would be like, well, this doesn't apply to you anymore. You still need to understand the character of God, and like this is what you could be getting, you should be getting, and it's Jesus that is keeping you from uh, suffering after your blaspheme and after your rebellion and after your uh, blatant whatever that you did. That's just covering your sins for you all the time. But uh, yeah, maybe it doesn't apply, like, because again, we're always worried about what we have to worry about. Like, oh, am I in trouble? Okay, well, I don't care. Am I in trouble? Well, I don't care. Okay, well, if you actually want to know what God is like, what the Father is like, He's like, Moses, you and Aaron get out of the way. I'm about to flambe this entire thing because they are out of pocket. Like that's what God is like, and I'm into it. I'm way into it. Um, so he's the boss. He had to go down to Sodom and Gomorrah to see how bad it was, to see if it really needed to completely be razed. Like none of it was salvageable, and that's what it was. He's God. He's the God, the God. And then he did away with it. The whole earth he waited till the entire earth was filled up. Not a single righteous person except for one guy righteous enough to save his own family. Just like those men were wicked enough to doom their family. One man was righteous enough to save his own family, put him on a boat. The whole world was hinging on his righteousness until it just wasn't enough anymore. And then he had to get rid of the whole thing. He had to get rid of the whole thing and start over. So, yeah, that's God. That's the Father, God. And I think the missing character in all this is us. Like, and how bad we are. We always sort of omit that from the story, but like, look how bad humanity can get. How bad humanity can get, where no one is safe. We're just gonna rape your guests. What are you gonna do about it? Absolutely nothing. So bring them out here like that. We could be living in a world like that. And we might be there again someday if any of this stuff starts to break down even more than it is. So, could just be every man taking by force and not caring and loving the chaos and having their thoughts be violence and evil from day to night. So, anyways, I think that's all we will talk about for today. And then tomorrow we will go into, I don't even know, probably King David is probably like, we'll do like Kings, Samuel and Kings. I think I got one from Chronicles, but I don't know if it's David related or not. So, yeah. So, and that's quite a span, by the way, between the Israelites and David. That's like hundreds and hundreds of years. So, I'll say right now, this isn't exhaustive of all of the times, but these are the ones that stuck out in my mind, and they're pretty memorable. So, and it doesn't really, like I say, it actually doesn't happen very often. So, where God specifically, like he personally with his hand is doing it. So, all right, that's enough talking, blah, blah, blah. I will do another one tomorrow. Bye.